I'm Stephen Aron. I'm a professor of history at UCLA, and I'm also the chair of the Institute for the Study of the American West at the Autry National Center, which is primarily the Autry Museum. The Autry Museum was founded in 1988. In 2002, it merged with the Southwest Museum of American Indians. Out of that was formed the Autry National Center, which oversees these museums that are now combined and that look at the history and cultures of the diverse peoples of the American West. I think, in fact, when we founded the Institute for the Study of the American West at the Autry, the explicit purpose was not to create a research center like others that had been created or have now been created at a variety of universities around the country. There have been a proliferation of research centers affiliated with universities. At the Autry, though, what we wanted to do was to really think about a research center that would be entwined with the work of the museum and that would bridge the divide that I think had grown up between the academy and the world and public history, but even more between the universities and the research that goes on there and museums. One of the things, though, at the Autry then is I work with the library staff in sort of developing access to the collections and helping researchers gain access to the Autry's collections and look at ways to interpret them in a variety of formats. I work with the curators in developing exhibitions and in overseeing the intellectual content of the exhibitions and in helping vet the kind of arguments we're making and the ways in which those arguments fit with, build upon, and depart from existing scholarly understandings. I work with the education department in sort of training docents and in working with docents to make sure that they sort of are also brought up to date on, I think, the most exciting new developments in Western history. I work with the programs department to sort of develop programs that, again, look for ways to bring the scholarship that I think is animating the field of Western history, frontier history, borderland history, and look for ways to make that accessible and engaging to a broader public. When we created the Institute for the Study of the American West at the Autry, part of what we were aspiring to do was to break down, I think, this divide that had grown up between academic history and public history. And I hope that in some ways the next generation of students, that divide will be less meaningful, that all historians in some ways will learn to be more public in their in what they do and how they do it, and sort of appreciating the audience that we reach and the necessity of learning to communicate with a broader public. When I started, I really knew little. I had not been trained in museum studies. I had not been I had no background in material culture. Like most historians, I tended to view images or material objects as things that you might include as illustrative afterthoughts. That is, when your publisher came to you and said, well, we've got too much unbroken pages here, could you find an image to put on a page here? Or with material objects, again, something that if you needed a slide for a lecture, but something that would be purely illustrative background. I think one of the things that has been so wonderful for me, being able to learn from the exceptional curatorial staff at the Autry in particular, Carolyn Bruck, and I want to give a shout out to, who is the Women of the West curator, chief curator there, and she's probably been the most formative of my educators, really to learn how to use material culture, use the interpretation of visual imagery, not just something as a slapped-on afterthought, but to really make it central to the kind of interpretive work we do. I want history to matter more. I want history to matter more in the sense that it has a deeper impact on the ways in which people think and engage the world, but I want history to matter to more people. And I think we have to look to ways to sort of make that happen. I guess in terms of surprising things is, one of the delights about working in a museum is, again, just being able to be near really cool stuff. Most historians tend to work exclusively with documents. And I mean, actually being close to documents can be a wonderful experience, and when you are near a remarkable document and you're reading it, and sometimes if you're the first person reading it and you have that wonderful aha moment, that is a great thing. But when you're near just sort of historical materials that have a really exciting provenance to them, it's quite a exciting thing. I remember I was just on a collections tour behind the scenes of the National Museum of American History a couple months ago, and just one of the curators just was showing me a variety of things, and at one point he just opened up a drawer and pulled out the inkwell that Abraham Lincoln used to write the Emancipation Proclamation. And it's just sort of, wow, here it is tucked away in a drawer is this remarkable piece of history that obviously you can use to connect to understanding a broader thing. And for a lot of people, I think, objects speak more powerfully than words. That I think, again, as historians, we tend to be trained to sort of use texts and the words and think about them as being the things that matter. But I think for a lot of people, looking at an object, seeing an object, being close to an object is what actually triggers the aha moments that I think we live for.